My name is Annabel Westman. I'm a textile historian and interiors consultant. I was wonderfully brought into this project, really to find out more about the fabric. The fabric, of course, fills the room. It's very, very dominant in the room. It fills 6 panels, 2 large panels either side of the fireplace and 2 in each apse. The panels are curved, which has been quite complicated to create that curve with the fabric. And of course, the 3 windows in the room are absolutely full. They're completely draped in a festoon drapery with long tails and a pair of drawer curtains at each window, which Robert Jones, of course, designed, following a pattern that would have been found in rich aristocratic houses. But they're very, very full draperies, very complicated to make, with long tails and with rich fringe. We know this from a very long description in the 1828 inventory, but nobody had been able to find the origin or any example of the fabric. And all we had to go from was the description, wonderful description, His Majesty's geranium and gold-coloured silk, and a watercolour by Augustus Pugin showing the Saloon in 1823 with a rather fuzzy image, very not very decipherable, but image of one of the wall hangings. And we looked in the Royal Archives. They have rolls of untouched fabric, which were also in a crimson, but it was a poppy-coloured crimson, not a geranium. If this fabric had not come to light, we were in quite a dilemma. We could have made something up from the fuzzy design. I suppose in a way we were thinking of that, although dragging our feet to do so. But that, I think, would not have been true to the philosophy behind the recreation of this saloon. So much attention was being paid to the accuracy, and I think if we'd made something up, that would have not have been correct. So I think we would have had to have gone something that was similar and just been very honest. Fortunately, we hadn't got quite to the point of choosing it before we made our first discovery. And it was just a chance conversation with Richard Humphreys, who's a silk weaver in Sudbury, that I said, "Do you recognise this design?" It's this rather fuzzy design, and gave him the description, which also included from the inventory the words bird, flower and scroll. And he said, "Well, actually, Annabel, I think I do." He said, "Just give me a day or two." And he came back with a negative of a design that certainly did have a bird, flower and a scroll in it, and was really quite similar to what we thought we were looking for. And we began to think, well, this is a much closer design than we have discovered so far, so let's use this. But that was really on the first of the amazing discoveries that were made. And again, it was by Richard Humphreys, one of his staff, were flicking through a book in the V&A by Leslie Miller, but it's a facsimile of a merchantman's book of 1764. And inside, 2 19th century fabrics were included, and one of them, guess what, was half of the pattern of our silk. We couldn't believe it, because this, we realised, did have a diagonal design, which was very clear in the Pugin watercolour, and it showed us the layout of the pattern and part of the design. So we thought, right, we'll copy this one. But we weren't very happy with the colours. Red was a good geranium red, we felt, but the gold was a very acid colour. But we thought, what should we do? Should we go for this? We weren't sure whether it might have been part of the original. It was a very old piece of fabric. And then, just at that right moment, the Royal Collection were loaning the pavilion 6 chairs. And so I wrote to the upholsterer and said, "We are using this fabric for the chairs, and how much would we need?" And he rang me and said, "I recognise that fabric. We've got a bit of it on the wall." And lo and behold, in the workshop, a piece of fabric had been removed from a chair in Buckingham Palace for the Queen's Jubilee, and the upholsterer at the time had put a bit of the original fabric in a frame and hung it on the wall. And I went round to see it, and not only was it the same fabric, but it was in a slightly different colour yellow, and it was the other half of the design. I mean, it was just extraordinary. So now we had a geranium colour, but we had a much more of a gold colour in this latest discovery, which also matched the one element we did have in the room, the tassel, that we know survived from the room, and that also was a similar colour gold. So now we had our gold, and we had our crimson, and we had the pattern layout. So altogether, it was a very exciting detective story.